All right, everyone, thanks a lot for joining. This is the December crew call happening on our Discord. A lot of things happened the previous month in November. Conta, any comments? Apple, it's been a crazy month.
Yeah. So obviously we launched the project mainnet on November 21st. Really, really great first week, I would say in general. I think TVL wise, utilization wise of the pools, like the interest rates, like the demand for, the demand to borrow, I think, you know, definitely surpassed my own personal expectations. So that's definitely very exciting to see. I think going into this project, we all kind of knew that we had a great idea and we're filling a niche that wasn't being filled right now. But I think just to see, how quickly, we've seen the growth that we've had, it's really just a confirmation of, you know, that we have something special here. Um, so, thanks for that. Really great launch. Um, Obviously, um, can't ignore the couple days we closed things down. Frankly, that decision was made in the interest of protecting depositors. I mean, we had only been out for a couple days, and while like some may argue the Wrapped Bitcoin FUD was overblown, and that may be a fair argument. Like we just, we were trying to play it safe. We were getting recommendations from other protocols even to take a look at this. And right now we are using the Bitcoin price. Uh, like on Lodestar, the Oracle price is the Bitcoin price. So like if there's a massive depeg between Bitcoin and Rats Bitcoin, we could have been adversely affected by that. So,
and just want to note on that'll get rectified soon.
Yes, yeah. So we do have an Oracle upgrade coming that's sort of forced on us because GLP is redoing, or GMX is redoing their GLP contracts. So as part of that upgrade, we'll be switching to the Wrapped Bitcoin price feed. But yeah, I mean, just the explanation from the team here is basically, we were only a couple days into the project. The FUD seemed somewhat legitimate, and we knew that our Oracle was pulling the Bitcoin price rather than the Wrapped Bitcoin price. So just out of prudence, we decided to do a temporary pause. Fortunately, it seemed like everything was fine, and we reopened the markets a couple days later as the peg sort of went back to like close to 100%. Aside from that, I think, go ahead.
I was going to say the feedback from the community was pretty positive. When you just we felt that something could maybe go off. We just released the protocol just got released. We just wanted to play it safe and like safety first in this industry, right?
Yeah. So that actually is probably a somewhat decent segue into the auditing discussion. So we're happy to announce that we have secured a firm to do our audit. They should be starting tomorrow. We're working with a firm called Solidity.finance. It's an American auditing firm. They were recommended to us by Plutus DAO. That is who they've used in the past for some of their contracts. And Solidity.finance also has a pretty good history of clientele in general. They've also done work for Dopex. They've done Yuga Labs on the Bored Ape Yacht Club. So they've got a fairly impressive resume. And they seemed to have some experience specifically dealing with lending protocols. And sort of another thing that was attractive about them was sort of their risk framework analysis, which will be a part of the audit, which sort of looks at economic risks rather than just coding risks. So it's always good to get a second eyes on that kind of stuff, and just make sure that an unbiased auditor can really give a true opinion on some of the design decisions, and just make sure we didn't overlook anything as a team. So that's in motion. They've given us a tentative completion date of December 19th for the initial audit, where they'll provide us, whatever findings there are, if there are any. And then we'll go into like a second round where we'll make the changes they've recommended, and then they'll review those changes. So that second part, sort of depends on what changes are recommended and how long it takes us to actually implement the recommended changes. So it could be sometime next year that we are fully 100% audited, like with everything completed. But the process will be getting started tomorrow, and we will be receiving real-time information about potential exploits as they go through the code. So we can pretty much jump on things right away rather than waiting until the end. So let's see what else we have on our agenda list. Is there any questions so far about that?
Any ETA, Konta? I'll ask a question for the audit.
So yeah, December 19th is what they said for our the tentative finish date for the initial auditing. So at the end of that period, they'll provide a report to us that will explain, any potential exploits or other risks. And then there'll be like a period for us to implement those changes. And then there'll be a second period. So it's a little harder to estimate the second part of that, because I don't know, I don't know what they're going to find and if there's going to be things that we need to change or not. But we should have the initial report by December 19th.
So we could expect Q1 as a timeline.
Yeah, I think that's fair, because, obviously they're going to be kind of heading into the Christmas holiday, after the 19th. And yeah, I'm sure between our team and their team, it's going to be a little bit harder to push things forward at that time of the year.
Sounds good. Anything on the UI? I know Sushi. I wanted Sushi to be present, but he'll be coming back home tonight. What can you expect on the UI?
Yep. So our front end engineer, he's been out of the country for the last 10 days or so. Sort of unfortunate timing, but he had this trip pre-planned before we hired him, and we're very confident that Sushi is going to be delivering high quality engineering work for us. I think we appreciate your patience while we were kind of getting everything up to speed. But on the UI front, we've already updated the liquidity mining dashboard. Thanks to Apple, he did that. It's a really nice looking page now. And we're going to be modeling the claim page off that end. And that should probably be out in the next couple of days. But then as for Sushi, sort of the top things that we have on his priority list are going to be working on some of the main DApp front end stuff. So the kind of stuff we'll be targeting there would be like this issue where sometimes the market's hide during looping strategies. So like sometimes if you're supplying an asset and borrowing another thing, like the thing that you're borrowing will like disappear from the supply pane, which makes it kind of annoying to do loops because you have to do it through the back end. So he'll be targeting fixing that. Also, I get a lot of questions about like sort of how to interpret the interest rates on the front end. So we're going to have him kind of clean that up and make it a little bit more intuitive, so it's just easy to understand. And once we kind of have like the things that we already have cleaned up a little bit, like we just mentioned, I'm going to start working on a new page that we don't currently have, which will be like a markets dashboard page. A lot of people have requested this. It'll make it much easier to sort of visualize like the supply, like the total supply and total borrows in each market, and like what utilization rate it's at. And it'll also kind of help users understand like how much interest they've accrued better. Because I think one criticism I've seen sort of floating around in chat is that like it's hard to interpret your your supply balance because it's like shown in USD. So like if you had like 1 ETH supplied, for example, it's showing you like your balance in terms of dollars. So as the price of ETH moves, like the price in dollars on Lodestar also moves. And because it's like hard to differentiate between like what portion of this is interest and which portion of this is just price movement, it's sort of hard to discern right now. So we're going to get like a bit of a dashboard page that'll make a lot of this information more digestible, and that'll be Sushi's kind of first main project. And I'm hoping that it shouldn't take too long to get that out, but that page is pretty much starting from scratch, so it'll probably be at least a couple weeks, I'd say.
And probably also linking the main page to the mine page and also the claiming page. So we'll probably also be adding some links to the Sushi Pool rewards and also claiming the vested tokens and then swapping them to LODE.
So I don't think we've pushed it out onto the landing page yet, just the regular lodestarfinance.io. But I think we already have some buttons built in, like locally, that are updates that are ready to push. But I'd have to confirm that with Appo.
Yeah, they're pretty much good to go. I can look into that and get it out there.
Yeah,
amazing.
So that should make it a little bit easier.
Oh yeah, amazing. For those who didn't see it or are a bit lost, I did also a YouTube video on how to claim the tokens, swap them, and then provide the liquidity to Sushi. So yeah, I'll be also adding it to the recording of this IMA if anyone needs it.
So I guess back on, that's a good segue, I suppose, into specifically for the presale tokens. So far, there's been a lot of complaints about the current claim page, and we definitely have heard and tried to work through a lot of these issues. Frankly, we just need to get a better UI going, so that's more intuitive, and that is, like I said just now, going to be one of Sushi's first things to tackle when he returns home. But in general, I think for the most part, people are limping through the process of claiming. We have distributed the first of the 4 upfront airdrops to the ALN supporters. The next one will be coming tomorrow. I think one metric that I was very happy with is the day we did the first airdrop, there was a lot of let's say doomers in the chat saying that this was going to be catastrophic or whatever. And the results were that the day the airdrop went out, the liquidity in Sushi went up about 30%, and the LODE price ended the day up 5 or 10% after essentially increasing its circulating supply by 10 or 15% in one block. So I think really what that tells us, or at least where I'm interpreting this, is that the people who participated in ALN, they went into this with a long-term outlook, and were willing to lock their stake up for a year. And they're not the kind of they're not the type of investor who's looking to make a quick 2x or 3x. They're looking at this as where could this be in a year or 2 years? And to have those types of people behind us that sort of understand that this is a project with a long roadmap, and we're getting started in the depths of a pretty deep bear market. The ceiling's really high for us, but it's going to be a long road, and it's just nice to know we have that level of strong support, from our earliest supporters. So thank you for that.
Yep.
And again, so the next drop will be coming out tomorrow.
Tuesday,
and
not tomorrow.
Tuesday. Sorry, yeah, Tuesday. Yeah, now you've got me messed up on
No, every Tuesday, and then
yeah, you're right.
we get that sorted in 3 weeks, and it's done.
Yep.
And if I may comment on what you said regarding the airdrop and the price not dropping as much as like the FUD was saying. Again, thanks everyone. I think everyone has understood what's the vision here, the long-term one, and a lot of people have been blaming LODE for being like a farm token. And I think it's not much of a farm token. It's more like in the accumulation phase at the moment. So yeah, looking at the APR now, still 3 digits, still more than 500%. People will say, yeah, careful with the impermanent loss. Not really. If you get paid in LODE and keep accumulating it, even if it bumps, you're still in profit with these APRs. So definitely worth it to deepening the liquidity of LODE.
Yeah, and I mean, just to sort of address the LODE as a farm token thing, directly. The reason why we're doing things the way we're doing, it's pretty quite simple. Like, the way that LODE ultimately will generate a lot of revenue through revenue sharing is by having high TVL and high utilization on the pools. So right now there's no LODE staking. That's something that's still on the roadmap. We launched the project less than 2 weeks ago, and we're sort of in a phase right now where we're trying to have as many people try the app, learn about it, know it exists, like try doing a loop of PLV GLP. We want people to know that Lodestar exists and to grow our user base and TVL as much as possible. So we do this by providing incentives, right? So we give out emissions for people who come and use the app. If you supply liquidity, you get LODE emissions. If you borrow, we'll even subsidize your borrows with LODE emissions, because when someone borrows, that raises the interest rates in the pool, which increases the amount of revenue the protocol is generating, which will ultimately increase staking rewards for LODE stakers. And then on the other side of things, we have the liquidity mining emissions for a pretty similar reason. We were only able to raise 200,000 out of our seed round instead of the planned 285,000, which meant that essentially we weren't able to provide as much protocol and liquidity as we wanted to. So by incentivizing people to provide liquidity, we're making it so that the pool has much less slippage and just more stable price action to begin with. So these are all things that are very positive for the protocol to have early on. Once we sort of finish shoring up things for the V0 launch, which we still have a couple things going on. The staking is going to be the very first thing that we tackle for V1, and just doing like rough maths, like it looks like it can be pretty good profit on the revenue share. But we just need to get to that part first, and I think being relatively inflationary at right now to continue the sort of growth snowball that we have is definitely going to pay dividends later. Like it's hard to it's sort of like hard to value the LODE token now because there's no staking. But when you can just see like, okay, one token is going to generate X in revenue, sort of like how you can just look at like the GMX token and say, okay, like this is GMX's total revenue. I'm getting, whatever 15% of it. You can just sort of figure out like, what is this actually worth? And we're going to get to a point where LODE is going to be exactly like that. And, on the roadmap to getting to that point, there might be a crazy price action, up, down, people speculating, whatnot. But at the end of the day, like we're headed towards, some sort of real measurable value.
Wake Up November is asking in the chat, what's the total protocol revenue at this point? I don't have the exact number, but for now, all the protocol revenue are going to the strategic reserves. Can you give some more details?
Yeah, this is a couple days old, but I calculated the current revenue, probably like either Thursday or Friday night, and I can just kind of quickly walk through like what the protocol has earned. I think when I did this, it had been running for about 8 or 9 days. So if you multiply this number by 4, that would be like the monthly revenue for this month. So we have 776 USDC, 0.2 ETH, 645 Magic, 0.7 Dopex, 0.01 Bitcoin, 339 MIM, 269 DAI, 253 USDT, 84 PLV GLP, and 330 Frax. So if you sort of multiply that by 4 for like a monthly revenue, that's close to like 10,000 US dollars in value. So, and if you annualize that, right, that would be $120,000 in revenue. And our market cap is basically like, it's like 350K or something like right now. So we're doing like, we're on pace right now to do like 33% of our market cap in revenue. And we just launched 2 weeks ago. So obviously, like, there's still a lot of room for us to continue to grow that. So I think we're in a great spot. Yeah.
How are we in the total value locked content? I was checking the deposits before the AMA. We have 6,600,000 deposits, but that doesn't count the loopings and the borrowings. Do you have a more recent number?
So what the bank is displaying is the net liquidity. So that's like deposits minus borrows, which is like the 6 million number that you're referring to. The total liquidity supplied is sort of a function of how many C tokens are minted and what the exchange rate is, which are calls that can be made on the back end. I also have a bit of some stale information from a couple days ago on TVL, but when I looked a couple days ago, it was at about 17 million total in deposits. We are pretty close to being finished with the SDK adapter to have LODE listed on DeFi Llama. I'm hoping we'll be done with that tonight. That's one of the things that we have scheduled to work on today. But yeah, we'll hopefully be on DeFi Llama soon, which will make that much easier to digest without having to like do math on the back end. And in a couple more weeks, once Sushi is able to tackle the market dashboard page, we will also be able to display TVL sort of broken down by each pool and overall on that market's dashboard page.
That's good, man. That's super interesting. People have been looping GLP. I think this has been pretty much of one of the biggest success, right? I think we have 3.5 million of all the GLP. There's deposited in not 3.5 million of PLV GLP deposited on Lodestar Finance. So how do you feel about that?
I think it's been really amazing. We actually, I believe, I checked this a couple of days ago, but when I looked, we actually had more PLV GLP deposited on Lodestar than Plutus had deposited in their own contract. So that's definitely pretty amazing.
That's a nice number.
But I think one of the things that sort of surprised me about the protocol that I did not anticipate was how high the utilization on ETH and Bitcoin is. But like now that the protocol has been around for a little bit and I've sort of seen, how attractive the GLP looping really is, it starts to make a lot more sense to me because I think a lot of people are trying to borrow Ethereum and Bitcoin as hedges to keep a pseudo delta neutral position for their GLP, which I think is a great strategy. And
I've seen a lot of
ahead.
whales doing it on DBank. I've been looking a lot of some on-chain data. And yeah, 50% USDC, 30% Ethereum, 20% Bitcoin, approximately. Or delta hedged.
And what's really kind of great about that too is like, if you just hold Ethereum or Bitcoin, like I think really, especially with Bitcoin, right? Because there's just not a ton of high yield opportunity for wrapped Bitcoin in DeFi. But like right now, I mean, you get like 7 or 8% for supplying it on Lodestar because there's so much demand to borrow Bitcoin. So it's pretty nice.
I think it's one of the highest on wrapped Bitcoin. I think when we will have the DeFi Llama dashboard, maybe we'll be able to check.
Yeah, possibly. But you know, these things are dynamic, and I think over time, as Lodestar matures, it's likely that interest rates would go down because I just anticipate that you know, more and more depositors will eventually choose to deposit with us. You know, as they begin to view us as a safer place to park money rather than like a risky new protocol. But regardless, as long as there's high demand for GLP leverage, I think you will earn a pretty good return just providing blue chips. I mean, like, it's kind of amazing, really, that there's no like, there's nothing else like this on Arbitrum yet, like this ability to kind of like leverage up your GLP, because it just makes so much sense, really. Like GLP is like relatively has a relatively low beta versus the dollar, just because it's 50% dollars, and it has such a high APR. It just makes it such a safe thing to use as collateral, while also just giving such a crazy return. So I mean, it's not surprising to me that Lodestar's TVL and utilization is sort of dominated by this strategy.
I'm also excited to see what kind of other build-ups can happen around GLP. I think it's we're only starting in this on the what's being built on top of this asset. It's going to be interesting to follow.
So it looks like the other thing on our agenda for today is to sort of discuss some of the updates to the docs. A couple days ago, I spent a ton of time updating everything to be, you know, concurrent. The docs had been a little bit neglected as we were getting kind of ready for our launch stuff. I think I still need to go back and update some of the testnet contracts. That was a request that was made because we're still using, I guess we're still displaying the Rinkeby testnet contracts instead of the Gorley ones. So I'll get that fixed today. But really, the key difference from before and now is the tokenomics section. We've unmasked, I guess, the plan for the mystery 7%, as well as we noted that since the Aelin sale didn't sell out, rather than 10% of the token supply going to Aelin supporters, it was only 9%. This reflects the portion that was unsold, and that extra 1% just went back to the treasury. So as for the 7%, 2% of that is going to go into the community fund. 4% of that is going into the treasury, and 1% of that is going to be earmarked for a special Odyssey event that we have planned. Still don't want to release too many details on the event specifically, mostly just because, like, I expected Odyssey to happen, like, I don't even know, like at least a month or two ago, and there's still kind of no news about it. So we just, rather than kind of get ahead of ourselves here, we're kind of waiting to hear what's going on with that before we make our own announcement. But backing up to the community fund.
And if I could just chime in there for a second, just to touch on your testnet comments, someone brought up. trying to use the test net, and I'm going to get the faucets set up as well, probably either today or tomorrow. So they'll be fully usable with dummy tokens and everything, so people can mess around with them if they need to.
Sounds good. So backing up to the community fund, we originally had planned, the community fund to be 2% of the supply, like all up front at token generation. Instead, what we ended up doing was using that 2% upfront to be deployed as protocol and liquidity, which was voted on by the AON supporters prior to launch and their governance vote. So the 2% coming out of the mystery 7% will basically vest over 1 year to replenish the community fund. And sort of the idea for the community fund in general is to, it's basically what it sounds like. It's to activate the community to do different types of tasks for the benefit of the protocol. So one of those examples is like our liquidation contest that is ongoing. There's 10,000 LODE up for grabs in that contest, and the community fund is where like that prize is coming from, as well as other similar things that we'll be doing in the future. So that covers the doc situation. And while we're talking about the liquidations, that's a good thing to bring up. We have our liquidator alerts that go out. The reason why we do this is because we are trying to get the community involved in liquidations. Ideally, we want to have a lot of people competing to liquidate other unhealthy accounts. This makes it such that on days with very high volatility, all liquidations are being able to be processed quickly and orderly to keep the protocol from accumulating bad debt. So by putting these alerts out, we are telling you basically the exact information you need in order to go and perform a liquidation. There's 4 things that show up in the liquidator field. One of them is called the market address. If you want to go and liquidate somebody, that is the contract that you need to go to. And then the other 3 fields in the alert are what you would want to put inside the liquidate borrow function. And that's really all you need to know. There's a couple more points. Like if you get there's a couple more like little exceptions that I have posted in the liquidation instructions. If it's not working for you, I would check to make sure that you aren't doing something wrong there. But yeah, I mean, we really need your guys' help. It's going to be a team effort to manage the liquidations. We have ongoing development for our own API. Right now, it's just giving the output for the liquidation function. But as a longer term thing, we're going to keep a database of sort of all currently active accounts and their borrow and supply balances in each different market, which will allow more sophisticated liquidator bots to parse that information and sort of come up with their own constructor arguments to put it into the liquidate borrow function rather than just using the ones that we're outputting. The ones that we output basically just choose the highest ETH borrow value and the highest ETH collateral value to seize, which, in theory is giving you the most profitable liquidation every time. But in practice, that may not always be the case, which is why, for a more sophisticated user, you would want the full API with all account information. But yeah, that's in development. It's one of the highest priority items for our development team right now. That's why a lot of the stuff that we're working on is not very visible to the end user. So I can appreciate if it doesn't look like things are changing much for you right now. But a lot of the work we're putting in right now is kind of in the back end of things and getting the API up to speed.
Yeah.
And we're looking at probably bringing an additional member onto the team here shortly, who will, be kind of in charge of this kind of stuff, the networking and API and load balancing and all that kind of stuff, just to make sure we have a very high quality and performant API to manage all this stuff.
And just to tack on to this whole liquidation discussion, so yeah, going back to what Quanah said about what is displayed in the liquidator alerts, like he said, the repay amount is based on, the supplier's maximum, collateral and borrow balances, and that's really just to make it the most efficient process as possible for getting accounts back to a healthy state. And like he said, once the API is more fleshed out, then people can come up with their own more sophisticated strategies that are tuned towards their own wants and needs. But in addition to this liquidation contest that is going on for the next couple months, and there's, like he said, 10,000 load up for grabs. I mean, liquidations in general right now, the competition is pretty thin. So, we're giving everyone all the information they need to execute these liquidations, and beyond the contest, there's definitely a little bit of money to be made. So, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, and just like on a personal level, like of the liquidations that I've gone through so far, I mean, we've had a few just in the last few days, that have been worth a couple $1,000s in profit, that kind of received delayed attention. I was able to go and do some of them after sort of being away from my computer, not paying attention for 15 minutes, and then came back and was able to do it. But like it's literally free money. Like it's literally free money if you just like went and did it yourself. We're spamming them out into Discord for everybody, and all you have to do is follow the instructions, and I mean it's literally free money. So we highly encourage you guys to participate in the liquidations, and we do have the contest going on at the end of the 3-month period that the contest started on, which I can't remember what day that is right now. There'll be 3 prizes. I think it's 6,000 load, maybe it's 5,000, 3,200 load. I can't remember what the prizes are, but it's pretty substantial amount of load for everyone. And it's just a matter of like whoever liquidates the most gets first prize, like second most gets second prize, etc. So on top of whatever revenue you make by performing liquidations, you're in the running for this sort of big load bonus as well.
6,000 loads, 3,000 loads, and 1,000 loads.
There it is.
For the first prize, second, and third.
Yeah, so not too shabby there. I mean, at current prices, like first prize is getting like what, like $2,500 worth of load. That's not too bad. Hopefully that provides an incentive for people to try and see if they can get some liquidations going.
I'll add one thing too real quick, Quan and Apo, is we're going to have some documentation here. Once we finish up this DeFi Llama stuff, I'll be fleshing out the documentation for the API. So we'll share with you guys all the endpoints we have, the parameters they take, and the expected return output. So that's coming, but right now, just bear with us while things are a bit rudimentary.
I imagine also, like in case of market shift, it would be very profitable for anyone to shift his liquidation boat to Lodestar. TVL growing, assets pretty exotic. I think there's pretty much a lot to make when it comes to financial incentives without the price of the contest.
And let me just add too, for everybody to understand, even if you don't want to participate in liquidators, I want to emphasize the importance of keeping your account healthy with a quick example. When your account becomes unhealthy, the amount you can be liquidated for is a function of your current borrow balance. It doesn't, not your shortfall. So if, for example, you had like $100 worth of collateral and you had a borrow balance of say $80, and you're like the markets move a little bit, and you're like, let's say your account is negative by literally $1. So you would, like, conventional wisdom would say, okay, well, then I can be liquidated for $1. But that's actually not the case. Again, it's a function of your borrow balance, which in this example was $80. Half of your borrow balance can be liquidated in one transaction if your account's underwater. So that would mean that you could be liquidated for $40 in this example for a $1 shortfall. So it's very important that you don't get liquidated, because you don't want that to happen to you. And for the liquidator, this provides a pretty big incentive, right? So you are going to be able to essentially purchase the underwater account's collateral at an 8% discount that you could immediately sell in the open market, and capture that profit. And the amount you can liquidate is not capped at their shortfall. It's capped at their total borrow balance. So there's definitely a lot of potential for revenue for liquidators. And if you're not managing your risk properly and keeping your account healthy, there's potentially large penalties. So it's very important to manage risk and to keep your account healthy. I think we have covered pretty much everything.
There's been some discussion on the LODE token in the chat. If you want to answer to it, Quanta.
Yeah.
Regarding the revenue sharing, like I wrote in the chat, I copied from the docs. All that was stated about the revenue sharing was in theory, but maybe you would like to expand on what's your vision of it.
Sure. So basically, the revenue sharing will come from all the fees the protocol is generating. Right now, there's only one source of those fees, and that is the reserves on each market. So there's basically a percentage of a percentage of interest paid that is allocated to the protocol's reserves. And that's the numbers that I listed off for each asset a little while ago when we were discussing the protocol revenue. And so that right now, that is the primary source of revenue. In the future, when we get into V1, there will also be revenue on emissions generated within inside of the protocol. So that'll bolster revenue a bit more. And then obviously any future products that we have yet to conceptualize, anything that generates revenue, will ultimately go to the load stakers. As far as like how things will look for staking, we're still kicking this around internally for the exact sort of model like we'd like to see for load staking. I don't want to pigeonhole us into anything by announcing it right now, because like I said, I mean we're still kind of at the design table, but basically there'll be some type of staking either locked for a certain amount of time or maybe unlocked, but and it'll just basically share the revenue from each of these fees.
Sounds good.
So yeah, I think we've pretty much completed like our pre-planned agenda. So we could open it up to just questions from the chat, or if someone wants to unmute and ask a question, feel free. Holy crap, this was a long AMA. I didn't realize this has been almost an hour.
Yeah. Like I was typing in the general chat, like I hope if we see the market shifting a little bit, because we've been going on the sidewalk, we'll be seeing some liquidations happening. We have, for those listening, we have a liquidation channel on Discord, and we do expect everyone to post the liquidation transactions. So yeah, looking forward to see them flow in the chat.
Yeah, I mean the performance on Magic this past couple days, Magic's been an absolute tear, and I think a lot of people who borrowed Magic are getting wrecked. I mean, the most of the liquidations that I've seen come through in the last couple of days have pretty much all been people who supplied stable coins and borrowed Magic to try to short it, and it did not work out for them.
Yeah, I've been waiting for some liquidations myself, but for now they happened in my sleep. So let's see what happens in the next days.
Y'all might have touched on it too, but I saw one question in chat asking if we had plans for other chains and stuff like that. I think, you know, it's something of interest to us, but right now we're laser focused on Arbitrum would be my response. Quan and Apo and Waffle, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, like, maybe one day we'll go to other chains, but like, there's so much still for us to do here on Arbitrum, and Arbitrum is the happening ecosystem. Like, Arbitrum is where everybody wants to be right now. There's really no reason for us to take our focus off of Arbitrum right now. But I mean, maybe way down the road we might hop to other chains as well. But yeah, I mean, our focus right now is definitely Arbitrum, and it's definitely continuing to integrate with all of the Arbitrum ecosystems and protocols here, and create like a very interoperable financial system between like us, Plus, OPEX, GMX, etc.
Definitely. I will add to that, just in case anyone's curious, the code base is written and forked in a way that multiple chains will be able to be integrated and supported. It's just like Juana said, when it actually makes sense for us to do so, we'll explore that more.
Yeah, I mean, like he said, we've just got so much that we have to flesh out here first, and while that's in the back of our minds, way down the line, being more chain agnostic and expanding and branching out, it's certainly not on the calendar right now.
I myself very much looking forward to see some products, some degen vault being built on top of Lodestar, because like with the PLV GLP, like you can get some crazy IPRs, and I'm just waiting for a vault that would build a delta neutral vault with some like 30 or 40% IPR unstable, opening a short on GMX at the same moment to hedge. So if anyone is willing to build anything of this nature, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, and there was a question in the chat about possibly having like a UI dashboard for following or executing liquidations, and that's probably something that we can explore. It's not currently something that we have on the radar, but like Quan was saying earlier, Sushi's going to be back today, tomorrow, so we can figure that one out if people think that would be a useful resource to have.
All right, any other questions before we wrap everything up for today? Well, thank you guys for coming to this month's crew call. We had a pretty good turnout. I hope that we were able to provide you guys with some good info and answer some of the questions you had. We'll try to, make this a monthly thing at the like the least frequent. We would probably do this monthly, but we may have other types of AMAs that we do, with partners and stuff. But yeah, this crew call will probably be a monthly thing. And yeah, thanks for the support so far. We will put this up on YouTube if you want to come back and listen to anything. And yeah,
Or
I
tell
think
your
that's it
friends.
for today.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
But yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. Obviously, if anyone has any questions or problems, feel free to reach out in Discord. We are